this video I'm going to show you 6 advanced ways to play a D chord, and I'm also going to share some of my favourite tips and tricks for using these shapes. Most people are familiar with the 3 most common ways to play a D chord, which would be open like this, on the 5th fret here, and on the 10th fret here. And most of the time these 3 shapes get the job done just fine, but sometimes you need something different. Sometimes you need something that's a bit more specific and a bit more nuanced. Let's look at 6 other voicings that you could use. Okay, voicing number 1 looks like this. Now this is actually based off a C shape. So can you see that we've got that like here, here and here? That's essentially just a C chord, but we've got a small bar there at the bottom. Now if you want to, it's easier to visualize if you imagine the bar there and then we build a C chord on top of that. But actually it's much easier to just play if you just bar those 3 and then build up off that. This is a great option when you need a fuller, more balanced sound than a regular open D chord. Voicing number 2 looks like this. This is a really interesting option because it's very similar to a standard D bar chord, but we have that note on the top, which makes this an inversion. And of course, because we've got that extra A note on the top, this voicing carries much more weight and body. It sounds great on an acoustic guitar. It's a really easy way to thicken out the D chords that you play because it's so similar to a standard D chord. You just add in that on the top. Really changes the nature, I think. A standard D bar chord on the 5th fret sounds like this. If we add that A note on the top, then all of a sudden it creates a more moody version, you know. Really interesting voicing, that one. Voicing number 3 looks like this. It's essentially the triad from here, but we add on these notes on the top. So what that gives us is again a really nicely balanced D chord. It's great because it's got plenty of kind of mid-range and weight to it. It's based off a movable G shape. Can you see that this here, if you imagine that this here is a full bar, which it's not, but just for the purposes of this, if you were going to play a G chord here, yeah, can you see how they're the top 2 notes from a G? But in this context, we're only barring here and here, and then adding these fingers on the top. And what that gives us is more weight. Again, it just gives you an extra way to articulate these chords. If you think about it, each one of these voicings allows you to articulate the same notes, but with a slightly different accent. Voicing number 4 is similar. So again, we're using the triad, these 3 notes from this bar chord here. We're using those 3 notes, but what we're doing this time is instead of going up here to create that D, we're just putting 1 note on here, and we play these 4 strings, strings 1, 2, 3 and 4. I think one of the reasons this one works so well is you've got that triad there, which is like the distilled essence of a D major chord, but then with that extra high D, it just adds a little bit of sparkle on the top, and it sounds really different to some of the other more weighty voicings that we've looked at here. Voicing number 5 looks like this. So it's a C chord, it's a C chord that we've moved up 2 frets. Got a really cool sound. That's not actually a D chord. I don't actually know what chord that is. It's some type of D. I don't know what it is. I just know that I've played it for years and it sounds quite cool. If you know the name of that chord, please drop it into the comments for me. I'd love to know what chord that is. Okay, the last voicing that we're looking at here, voicing number 6, is just a plain old D triad. One of the really cool things about this particular triad is that it's really near to the B minor pentatonic. So remember, the B minor pentatonic is the relative key to D major. They have the same notes. But the beauty of this is it doesn't actually matter what key we're discussing. The relationship between that triad and that scale, they'll always be next to one another on the fretboard. It's super cool, it saves you a lot of time. So if I'm playing that triad shape there, which is a major triad shape, then the minor pentatonic scale that goes with that, that works perfectly with that, is just here. yeah, it's right there for us. So that means that we can go from here and we can just lay in some notes from the minor pentatonic whenever we want to. The other cool thing about that triad shape is you can just run wild with, you know, like those Rolling Stones type. Which just always sounds great pretty much any time you play it. So it's just the triad shape. So these three. And then I'm just hammering on here. Here too. And also here. So yeah, those notes will always sound good no matter what you're playing. So the beauty of using that triad is it makes it really easy to connect with surrounding lead riffs and licks that you can use. I hope you've enjoyed this video, that you picked up some new things, and that you now have got some new and interesting voicings of a D chord that you can use and explore. If you enjoyed this video, you want to see more stuff like this, please like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.